Hello, I'm Tanya with the comeback seat, and today in the seat we have Ben, who is in Ohio. Hi, Ben.
Hey Tanya, how are you doing?
I'm good. Are you still living in Ohio?
No, I live in South Tennessee right now. So
I'm sorry, I messed up on that big
no,
time.
that's all right. I
Did you
um
grow up in Ohio?
I did, and
Okay.
oftentimes people leave. That's why you see and meet everyone from Ohio because they leave the state of Ohio. But no, it was a. I like Ohio. I have not been back in probably 15 years, so I'm
Okay.
sure a lot of things have changed.
Yeah. Tennessee is one of my favorite places to visit. I love Tennessee.
Yes,
My
it's there's so much to do. In Nashville, everyone thinks of Tennessee being Nashville, but if you expand, to cities, south and to the east, there's some beautiful areas.
yeah, my friends have a cabin up by Knoxville,
Yep.
and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, the mountains are
Okay, let's
amazing.
dive into who Ben is.
Yes.
Tell me about your soccer career here. Did you grow up playing soccer? What was?
Yeah. Yeah, I started playing sports as an early age. That was my thing. And I was horrible at basketball. I was horrible at baseball. And for some reason, soccer was my gift, and I enjoyed it. It's something that I think set me up for success in the future as being part of a team and practicing, but not understanding that something is bigger than yourself. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's something that really set. Looking back on it, really set me. At the time, I was just having fun playing soccer, hanging out with my boys. But now looking back, that really set the tone for the success and learning opportunities as I grew up.
And you went on to play D1 soccer. And tell me,
Yes.
where did you go and play at?
So I played at Bowling Green State University for 3 years. It was great. I had no really care in the world. Obviously, this was pre NIL and all that stuff. So I was just living the life of a. Unfortunately, my approach was I was an athlete first and a student second.
Okay.
And that was not the greatest approach. Junior year, I came to the realization that I wasn't going to play soccer for the rest of my life. So I had to really figure out what I wanted to do. So I moved back to Dayton and transferred to University of Dayton, where I later Graduated, but that was the first moment, I guess, my junior year of like, okay, well, soccer's not my thing. What is the thing? What am I
Yeah.
going to do? Um, and, uh, and my dad was in sales. My mom was a school teacher, and I knew the importance of building relationships. So I thought I wanted to go into sales, which is ironic because I am in sales now. But 27-year-old Ben, after graduating, thought I was going to, go into sales, and I did for a little bit. It just was not for me. I did not have the skill set I do now. I didn't have the relationship building skills. So I tried outside sales for 6 months after I graduated college, selling Pella windows, custom
Well,
windows to homeowners. Hated it. I was
yeah.
didn't enjoy it. Didn't It just wasn't motivating for me. And
Right.
for I'm sure and everyone listening that if it's not motivating for you, it's oftentimes becomes less of a priority, and then we all know after that what happens. So yeah, so that was kind of my pre-military approach to life. Really laissez-faire. I really enjoyed playing soccer and enjoyed having being a college athlete, but was not ready for the real world.
Now, when you were a college athlete, because my son, he experienced D1 basketball at Oregon State, and I would say there was a lot of partying going on. Were you
Yes,
partying at that time? Were
a
you
hundred
having,
percent, absolutely.
because you
Like
guys get
that
catered
was
to.
yeah, and that was kind of to the point where I was like I was an athlete first, a student second. I didn't really focus on academics. It
Sure.
was practice, play games, and party. And it was just I was kind of the leash was off. In college you have a lot more freedom, a lot more responsibility, and I was that was it. That was just to have fun. And nowadays it seems like it'd be so much harder.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't really move or progress or I did keep some core characteristics that I learned, through soccer and through, those setbacks, but
Yeah.
it really wasn't, I was clearly not ready for corporate world after graduating college. And I don't almost argue very few are.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, I
then,
tried it.
yeah. And then you decided the Army after your window selling?
Yeah, so I'm a believer, and I think I believe everything happens for a reason. And I was miserable, and one of my clients, I was walking out in downtown Dayton, and the next thing you know, I turned around and there was the Army recruiting station. And as you know, you've probably seen them that they're all usually they're back to back to back, right? Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. And Army was just the first one I went to. I did not know much about Green Berets. I walked in and I walked out with two options, really. At that time they were providing a contract to at least go to Special Forces Assessment Selection. So they didn't guarantee you graduating, but they at least gave you a shot, barring the other prerequisites that you had to pass, basic training, airborne school, stuff like that. Or a officer candidate school. So I would go down and then I would be into the commission into the military as an officer. Due to my college education, those were the two really in my scores. Those were the two really opportunities. So I walked out and was like, wow, okay, do I want to do this? And that was a big step of me drastically changing, the future of my life. I talked to my parents. They were completely shocked. It was kind of like, hey, guess what? This is happening. And so I later obviously chose the Special Forces Assessment Selection 18 X-ray contract. In 2008, I enlisted. And that process from me entering into the recruiting station and me leaving for Fort Benning for basic training was 3 weeks.
Oh.
So it was really quick.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how I approached my military career is, let's not ponder, let's not sit and be patient. It was very, reactionary. Do I have this opportunity to change my life? Yes. And I took it. And great and bad things happen, right? And if I didn't take that, the same, similar great and similar bad things would have happened to me. Because that's life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting process. The reason why I chose 18 X-ray contract or the Special Forces contract was I had to say, if I failed or if I made a mistake to not allow me to pass selection, that was on me. It was my responsibility, and I liked that pressure. And I think that pressure was instilled in me, right, in practice, games. And the other one was they're kind of, once you graduated, they kind of farm you out to the needs of the Army, right? Different classes and whatnot. So that's why I chose that. And I wanted to challenge myself. I knew this was, the tip of the spear. Green Berets are a part of the special operations community where there's, various different special operations organizations. And for what the Green Berets were doing, kind of aligned with what I like to do. All right, build relationships, challenge yourself, and really, at the end of the day, what Green Berets are known for is the force multiplier, right? We come in and we train a partner force, and then that partner force becomes, an extension of us. And I love that, and I really like the concept. And for lack of a better, I mean, maybe this is good or not, the ego. Right, like I had an opportunity to be one of very very few individuals in our country and an even smaller amount right within the military. So that was the challenge, and I enjoy challenges. I think that was one of the things that growing up in sports really kind of taught me is don't really necessarily shy away from a challenge, and that's how I approached you know joining the military. And I knew I was mature, right? I wasn't 18. I could handle some games that they play, some psychological games that, hey, let's see if this, individual really wants it. and that really helped me. Not when stress is poured into a situation, right, intentionally or unintentionally, how do you respond? And I early on I gravitated towards that responsibility to perform under stress, and that was what selection. That's what the almost year-long training before I even got to a special forces detachment. That was all that was the challenge, and I approached it that way, which enabled me to continually be focused.
Yeah.
And that was something that is very drastically different in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Getting out, right? And I'm sure we'll get to that, but yeah,
What was a
it's a
typical
different
training
animal.
day like?
So in North Carolina, there's different, components, right? There's different sections and specialties that you go to, 6 months of language. So every day you're a student, right? You become a student. And I was a little older, so I was a little better of a student, or at
Yeah.
least more mature. But
How
when
many
I,
languages did you learn?
so I spoke Persian Farsi and Tajik, which is in
Oh,
Tajikistan. So it's just a
okay.
dialect of Arabic, but then obviously Persian Farsi, which is ironic. Given the stuff that's going on now. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a challenge. It was a great. Uh, I loved the fact that I could learn that. It was difficult for me,
Yeah.
but it was a challenge, and that's something that kind of early on in my military career, if there was a challenge, I wanted to be a part of it, or at least give it a shot. But no, the typical training day, there's a lot of we train, and that's one thing I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand is we understand and we can conceptualize deployment, right? We understand that they're going someplace to protect our country and they're stepping in harm's way. But the stuff that we do back home, is just as important, right? You're not going to be successful in a game or in combat or anything unless you train and
Sure.
train extensively. So that's the amount of time that I put in here training significantly enhanced my success overseas.
Okay. And I read somewhere that you were diving underwater. You did training for that. Is that what your
Yeah,
specialty?
so they have a special forces underwater qualification course, and that is a 5 week course down in Key West. Extremely taxing, extremely attention to detail, and I was able to dive. I did dive once when I was deployed, but most of my stuff was down in Key West, so I really am a spoiled diver
Yeah.
because the water was so nice. But no, I've been able to dive recreationally overseas, but nothing, nowhere, shape, or form, something that uh, would be an infill mechanism for an operation. So we train for it in the event that there's an opportunity, but there's never an opportunity.
Okay. I guess it's good, right?
Yeah, and I loved. I mean, diving was great. It was very peaceful, quiet. Um, but there's a lot of good things about diving that I've read. That there are studies with PTS and some of those similar you know diagnosis that you know scuba diving is helpful for that.
Yeah. And you went to Middle East how many times? 8?
8 times, yes.
Okay.
So I spent all my career in the Middle East. Ranging from tactical combat missions to operating out of the U.S. Embassy. So I really had the full gambit of experiences. I experienced the ground living in the remote desert, constantly moving, and then I had the other experience of wearing a suit and having those types of strategic conversations within high levels of the government.
Yeah. My brother-in-law, he went over and served one time over there, and his stories, I mean, he doesn't speak of it, but the daily living lifestyle, it was very,
Yes.
very hard. I mean,
Yes, it is.
no
Yeah.
toilets, and I'm out.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting situations that you really look back and say, "Wow, like I did that." That
Yeah.
was, yeah. And that's the beauty of now is being able to look back and not dismissing it. It's like, wow, I did that, or man, I lived there in the middle of nowhere, right? Like it was
Right.
hot, and I'm complaining that it's raining right now. Like it's definitely it's nice to think back and be proud of the things that you've done.
Yeah. And when did you notice that mentally, physically, you needed to go on to something different? Or, I
Yeah.
mean, we're there almost 20 years.
Yeah, 17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of things, a lot of red flags that you wish you would have, like whenever you think back, you're like, oh man, that was a red flag. Like I should have probably paid attention to that. Um, and I, and I think the mental health struggles were always there, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing that like, something happened and then boom, all of a sudden that, there's a downward spiral. I think it was always there. The one thing that I did very well, which I do not suggest, is I compartmentalized a lot of things, right? I
Okay.
compartmentalized my professional life versus my personal life. And we all know that they bleed into one another. And my professional life was great. I was excelling. I was, continuing to broaden my skill set and enhance my, opportunities to become an asset to a team. But that was, as that was excelling, my personal life was not. And obviously, one thing that, again, this is a big red flag, is you're always going to gravitate towards, maybe what's easy or what's going well. And so I really dove in, and that was my identity, was a Green Beret. And that was the only thing that really mattered.
Yeah.
Um, and we all know that like that's not the healthy balance. There's a lot of people that do have a healthy balance, and it's great. But for me, that was something that I did not uh, put as much effort into. I was less when I was in, and just recently, is kind of the transformation happened. Is I didn't want to feel uncomfortable. I didn't want to feel like I was a failure. So if my family life was failing, in my marriage, I got divorced. Um, why focus on that, right?
Yeah.
So what does that do? It's just the same thing. I didn't have to seek more time at work. I didn't have to do that because that was already there. I was already giving it all. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Hey, I'm diving into work because I don't want to be home, or I don't enjoy being next to my loved one. So I put more intention. I have to go to work because I have to make money for this. Like there's all these excuses that I was giving myself.
Yeah.
And that's I was able to look at that um, and not see it as a problem. Right? So that was the underlying thing. And I don't necessarily equate, the, alcohol as it's a Band-Aid, I would say. For me, it was more of a escape. Right? I was escaping something internally that was going on. I was escaping it. And it was
Numbing
yeah,
out something.
yeah. And I think I just didn't want to face the harsh reality that I was a crappy husband. Right.
Okay.
I didn't want to face any of that. I didn't want to be uncomfortable. I had enough time being uncomfortable with, my profession. Um, so I constantly just shoved it down. And then for that, I was escaping the pain, right? Escaping the uncomfortability through the alcohol. And I always say, like, alcohol is not like, that was just the means, right? That was just a vehicle to get me from one place of misery and mental distress to, numbness for a period of time, and then rinse and repeat that.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't, hey, I just got to stop drinking, can't drink. That's not going to help, because guess what? I'm going to find some other way to numb. Right. And I think that's a lot of, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but I think the addiction society, is a very, fruitful. It's fruitful. It's very, that makes a lot of money. But we're targeting one thing, and that's just the vehicle. We need to target the driver, right? The driver is a human being and the human brain. And it wasn't until I really hit home on that to really understand what was I trying to escape, right?
Yeah.
Was I not being forgiving to myself? Did I give myself zero grace? Was I unable to make mistake without, that negative self-talk or the constant, replay on your head of, oh, I should have done this or I could have done that. So yeah, that's my view on that. And when I found that, and when I started putting effort into, hey, it's okay to be, it's okay to make mistakes, right? Because I'm coming from a world that mistakes means potential death.
Yeah.
So, you don't make mistakes, or at least you minimize, or you plan enough that you minimize the mistakes that you made. But in your personal life, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So when I did make those mistakes, and I started giving myself a little bit more grace and knowing that mistakes are an essential part of growth, um, the numbing, the Band-Aid stopped. Right, that I didn't need the Band-Aid as often.
Yeah.
I didn't need to cope as much because I was able to stop it from getting outside of my brain. Right, I was stopping the thoughts, the rehearsing in my brain from action. Right, and that's the big thing is you can think about it all day long. Obviously, not advisable, but in the grand scheme of things, if that's the case and you don't choose to act on a certain thing, then that right there is a massive victory. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my whole approach is, okay, let's rewind the tape a little bit past the substance misuse, right? Let's move it into what was Ben handling life? How was Ben handling life? How was Ben handling being a father, right? How has Ben handling, failure on that, finances, right? Now I have, I'm living by myself. I have to learn how to do, finance on my own, live on my own without somebody. So there's a lot of things that were going on that I just really shoved into the closet and neglected,
Yeah.
until I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was
Now,
good at it.
how long were you, would you call yourself an alcoholic at this point, or how much were you drinking?
Yeah, I would say I would. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was my main way to cope for anything, whether it's what was bad or good. That was the center thing, right?
Yeah.
Because the numbness was something that I was searching for so hard.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it was good or bad.
Got
And
it.
then until I started understanding that, um, I'm going, nope, I'm not going to do anything. This is a one way dead end. I'm not going
Yeah.
to be able to, I need to change. And there's massive amounts of help and facilities for mental health, for
Sure.
PTS.
Did you go to Celebrate Recovery or anything like that? How are you?
I've been to a recovery. Yes, it was a great program for me. It focused on the knowledge, the why component, and I think everyone knows that, you know misuse of anything, right? Misuse of social media, gambling, porn, addiction, all these misuse of it is really what are you running from?
Yeah.
And that was a big ego hit for me to sit there and understand, why am I running for these things and
Yeah.
what's really happening in my brain, right? What is the battle between your limbic state, right, the fight or flight, and your prefrontal cortex, where kind of the reasoning behind it, right? Who has control? Who's in the driver's seat? Who's in the passenger? And then knowing that, it was almost like a light bulb popped on in my head. It's like, oh, so if I can work on that limbic state, like what decisions I make in a chaotic state for me personally, because I was really good at making professional decisions in a chaotic state, not so much when it involved just me.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I started understanding that. I said, okay, I need to love myself better. Like I need to, it's a team of one, and it's me,
Yeah.
but it's still a team. And
Yeah.
why am I, neglecting that? So that was kind of like the layers of me and alcohol. It was always a problem until I pushed away alcohol and said, what's deeper? What is deeper inside? And that was not comfortable at all.
I'm sure.
I didn't like it, but I'm ecstatic that I did do that, because now that's made me into the person I am today, which is great. And by all means, am I perfect? Do I have my moments? Absolutely. Who doesn't? Right? Like I think that nowadays, a lot of people, they're less authentic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are still figuring it out, just like me. I think we're all figuring it out in life, because we don't have all the tools. We have this great thing called emotions that drive a lot of decisions, and sometimes those decisions are poor. But yeah, I'm glad I went through that.
And then you got remarried?
I did. I got remarried to a beautiful wife, and Kirsty, is her and I, live down here. We're starting a business, kind of. I hate to say it, but like a side gig. Everyone has side gigs and
Sure.
passion projects and all that. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. I sell medical devices to the military.
Okay, so you
So
went back into sales.
I did go back into sales, and I love it. I enjoy it so much more now. It's just understanding individuals and people, and it's a way to give back indirectly, right? Is I'm providing new, potential life saving devices to the active duty service members. And the company I work for, Recon Supply, hires veterans. So we're a team of veterans, and
Okay.
you can't beat that, where you come from a camaraderie of a team on the military, and then you move into this thing called corporate world, and now you have this other team of military individuals doing the same thing, trying to do it together. So
Yeah.
that right there, I'm extremely blessed to have found that. I spent quite some time searching for jobs,
Yeah.
and it's a difficult profession to get into. But yeah, finding that. So that was something that I enjoy doing now. I love the growth. I love the learning about new people, interacting with new people, and at the end of the day, giving that kind of sense of service to uh, the active duty component. Um, and yeah, the passion project, I think, is awesome. I love it.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so Chattanooga Fit is the organization. It's um, a parent company to Nashville Fit. So Nashville Fit is thriving. It's a really good. It's a marketing company that really ties everything for fitness right in Nashville. And they have different platforms, podcasts, magazines, everything. They post events. And I moved down to Chattanooga, and I was like, I'm going to replicate this. So that was my initial goal. And if you all don't know, Nashville and Chattanooga are completely two different beasts.
Okay.
Nashville's more of a younger crowd,
Yeah.
more faster tempo, a lot more things to do. People are willing to embrace the traffic, and Chattanooga's
More
more,
Vegas style.
yes, more van, 100%.
Okay.
And Chattanooga's more home focused, family. There's still a great outdoors environment. The fitness community is phenomenal. But that didn't work. The same business strategy in Nashville did not work in Chattanooga. And I spent about almost a year of trying to do that, and
Oh,
trying
okay.
to balance the new job, the new sales job, with this business balance. I'm only 12, 13, 14 months out from me retiring, so trying to balance and understand how to be a father, to be a husband, to be a worker, and not be in the military, right? So all those three things really, just kind of dumped on me. And I'm still learning till this day about, being a veteran versus being an active duty service member.
Yeah.
It's a process, and I know it's going to be. And one thing that I had the luxury to do is, it took, about 8 months to get out of the military. Ironically, it took 3 weeks to get in. It took 8 months to get out. But during that time, I call, the anticipated trauma. Like, I knew I was going to get out. I knew eventually it was going to happen. As it came closer and closer, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? How am I going to feel? Trying to prepare myself the best way I could to, get some communities in place, get some friends, get some understanding of resources, outlets. And that was hard, because all that stuff I prepared,
Yeah.
um, didn't necessarily play out in my mind, right? I'm not God. I can't forecast the future. So I try to be as much prepared as I could. And I think it helped. It helped kind of that, okay, what now?
Yeah.
I already had a trajectory. I already had a new purpose. Although that purpose fell, flat on its face with Chet Fit a couple times, it still was a purpose nonetheless.
Yeah.
And that's what I look at now is we all are going to face hardships throughout our lives, and it's just a part of what life is on the side. And if we can truly understand, it's a learning opportunity. And again, I go back to the limbic state versus the prefrontal cortex, the chaotic versus the calm. Is if we can understand that there's these hurdles, these setbacks are going to be uh, they're going to happen frequently, right? Multiple times a day, and it's all how you handle them. And for the way I handled it is I used outreach. I talked to a lot of people. I have, a group I meet with every Tuesday with a lot of successful men, and that significantly helped to just kind of like talk about things and create those bonds that I not lost.
Yeah.
But once I got out, the same things that were important to me were not the same things that are important to the active duty, Green Berets or special operations. So they had to keep going, and what I talk about is it's train, and the train's moving. You get off, the train's moving still. Like you're not going to be alongside that train anymore. And it's a harsh reality. But if you can understand that, and you can apply that to anything, you can apply that to a move, you can apply that to a new job. But if you can understand that that's coming and being able to at least prepare and have that community, have a plan, I believe that gives you the best chance to for success.
Was that where you created the 4Fs?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
The 4Fs. The 4Fs has been around. A lot of people use it. Faith, family, finance, fitness. And being around that, I understood it's important, right? All of them are important.
Sure.
So as Chattanooga Fit was pivoting to a new business idea, business proposal, I looked at how can we utilize the 4Fs to make a more well-rounded individual. And the fitness component is great. And you can go work out 2 hours a day. You can get your, the quality rest. You can get your recovery. You can eat well. But if your finances are messed up, how is that going to impact your fitness, right? If your family, like if you are constantly fighting with your significant other, how is that going to impact your fitness? And then your faith is how can you have enough faith to overcome some of these hurdles that you're going to face, and have that grace and have that belief that things are happening for the greater good of you. You just don't know it yet. That impacts your fitness. So really, the thing that we're talking about now is kind of like the fitness of the mind. Is how do we, if you take all four of those, faith, family, finance, fitness, chances are one of them's pretty solid, right? One of them's pretty good, and it really just needs the maintenance dose, right, to maintain it. But the other, maybe two, maybe three, are need to be a little bit more focused, and that is something that I've learned now. Back when I was balancing the family and professional life in my military career, and I obviously wasn't balancing it. I was trying to. I didn't understand the importance of family that had an impact on my career. And that's just not just for military members, right? Family impacts your ability to get up in the morning and go to the gym. It impacts your ability to work hard. Like, what is your passion? What is your purpose within the family component? So what we're doing is we're asking, and we're going to create a group of individuals, and they're going to be in Nashville and Chattanooga as we continue to grow. We'll add more, but I want to have people that have the knowledge, and there's so much information at our fingertips right now. with social media. It is outrageous. And not to say anything harsh about all those individuals, but do they have enough information? Are they credible resources? Are they refurbishing stuff that they're, collecting from some outside sources? So what I really want to do is get the people that are really understand and have gone through some tough times, or really wholeheartedly approach this the right way of, hey, I want to help, right? The financial motivations and all that, great. But at the end of the day, you being able to help, your local community by giving them information, letting them know, hey, maybe you need to look at one of the things that you're not good at, right? Like maybe you're not good at the gym, but you can balance a checkbook like in no other, right? Then great, maintain that, but also put some focus, right? Have some humility and have that uncomfortable conversation of like, hey, listen, this sucks. I don't like it. I know, right? I know I have that anticipated trauma of being uncomfortable. I know it's going to be that way. But it's a necessity for growth, right? To be able to grow, no one's growing doing what they're good at.
Yeah.
Right. And it's hard to sit there and say, I'm not good at something, right? A lot of people, no one likes that. But it's a necessity. So for me now, that's what I want to do is, hey, listen, we have a cohort of individuals focused on one of those four pillars, and so let's start providing some value. Let's take responsibility for our communities, and let's start helping individuals out. And if it spawns into something bigger and better and financially rewarding, then great. But I've learned, if you chase money, most times you're going to have to start sacrificing something else. But if you do it for the pure reason, things tend to work themselves out sometimes. Most of the times.
So this is a health facility where you're going to have mentorships basically in the facility that people can go to?
No, it's going to be all virtual for the time right now. Yeah, all virtual right now. We're going to have a healthy mix between Nashville and Chattanooga. And do I know if it's going to work? I don't know. I don't know. But you know what I do know? I know that what was going on wasn't working.
Yeah.
And what can you do? You have to pivot. You have to change if you want, or an option to quit. That is an option, right? And there's no, if I told myself when I started, I give it 2 years, and after the 2 years, I can have a long, hard, talk with me and my wife about, is this something that fills our cup? Is this something that we like to do and enjoy to do together? And if not, then it's okay. Like I'd say probably the past 6 months, I've gotten to the point where it's okay to say no. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to fail. And that's an ongoing battle for me, and it will always be, is the failure component of it. But just like momentum works, right, on the ball and rolling down the hill, well, negativity works the same damn way. And
that's true.
I've seen, the second, if I can stop it from getting, off the top of the mountain, the thought, then I'm not going down, and I'm not, spiraling downward. And it only gets faster and faster until you get out of your own way. So I found it to be best to stop it at the beginning. A lot easier said than done, right? It's simple, but not easy. But what's the alternative? And that's, for me, logically, I'm like, okay, well, what's the alternative? I make a mistake and I give up and I talk to myself, in a terrible way, or I adapt and change and feel the uncomfortableness for a little bit. But I know what way is going to keep me the best version of myself, and I know what way is going to significantly put me back into a space that I don't want to be in. Right. So knowing that, and I would never have known that unless I have made those mistakes in the past. And I think that's the, seeing, your podcast and then the comeback, it's like, well, let's look at comeback as at a micro level, right? And I come back every single day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Right. I had a flat tire 2 days ago. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I came back from that. I was still able to get to my, my client, my territory, and then come back. So being able to identify the small victories. I think oftentimes we want the Super Bowl worth of victories. We want something to happen, and then confetti's coming down from the rafters, fireworks are going off, and everyone's on television saying how great, Ben did this.
Yeah.
But that's unrealistic, and we all know that. But being able to sit there and say, I accomplished that. Like, I had a flat tire, I didn't spiral, I didn't do anything. All right, that's great. Progress, right? Is it 0.001% progress? Yes, but it's a progress nonetheless. So that's something that I looked at is, yeah, you come back from getting out early to starting a business, to being the national director of programs and partnerships with the DoD and doing all those. That's a great comeback, right? Coming from not having a job to this and owning a business. But man, that comeback happened every single day, multiple different times a day, and that's something that I immediately thought when talking to you is like, listen, like we have so many comeback stories,
We sure do.
and let's not dismiss those, right? I think we oftentimes dismiss them, and we don't give them. Again, do we need to? Hey, I got my tire fixed. Like, I need more money, and I need a new house, and I need legs. No, I don't need any of that. But I do need to tell myself, like, hey, that was a good. Like, you didn't go back home. You didn't say my day's shot. I'm done. Flat tire. I can't go anywhere. Right. So it's being able to identify, overcome obstacles and give yourself some grace. Like, if you get out of bed in the morning and that's something to struggle, then put some fireworks on in your brain. Say good job. Like, give yourself that pat on the back. I think too many times, and we externally seek validation without internal validation.
Yeah. Ben, have you been to counseling? Are you? Did you go to counseling throughout these years?
I've gone to counseling. Yeah, I've been to counseling. I've done that. I believe counseling has its place. A lot of, I had a counselor is someone who, we're going to dive down into your past, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to figure out what's going on. And then you go into a coach, which is like, okay, hey, great about your past, but here's what we're moving on and we're going to do from now on. So I definitely understand the mental health component, the anxiety, the depression that everybody has.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things my wife said to me as we started doing some speaking engagements. I was talking about kind of similar stuff that we're talking about here, and a lot of people would come up after and say, hey, I think that way too, or I like the strategic adversity component of it, of putting yourself in a adverse situation, but knowing what you're going to get out of it. Right. A perfect example is the cold plunge. Like, it's going to stink. I hate the cold plunge. It's not going to be fun. You're going to want to get out. You're going to battle. Yes. But you do it anyways, right? Because the benefits, but also the mental benefit. Because if you can sit there and stay in there for 2 minutes when your brain's telling you otherwise, now replace that with any other vice that you have, and you have ammunition to fight it, right? You have ammunition to sit there and say, no, brain, I don't have to do that, because look, I just sat in 40-degree water for 2 minutes and I wanted to get out on 15 seconds. So that's the kind of how I talk about strategic adversity. But it's crazy. But yeah, my wife was like, hey, no, everyone has problems, and your problems aren't special, right? And it may sound cold, but she meant it from love. But that's the thing, is we're all so focused on our own internal problems, that if you just open up your eyes a little bit, the person that's sitting in the the stoplight next to you, or sitting next to you in the line at a grocery store, probably have similar things. They probably battling similar things. And that does nothing to, for me, that kind of doesn't put my problems on a pedestal in my own brain.
Yeah.
And I'm able to say, okay, if other people are doing that, then and they're battling that and being successful, well, I can do that too. Is it going to look different? Yeah, absolutely. Is it going to be hard? Is it going to be difficult? Yeah. But again, like I said, what's the other alternative?
Yeah.
That's something that and that's one of the things is if we all want growth and we all want change, like we have to understand first. We have to do access, like we have to assess our situation where we're at. And that's hard, right? Because that requires honesty. And
we have to all move to Tennessee.
Yes, all move to Tennessee, please. It's get out of the West and move to Tennessee.
Without
You
saying,
could move, yeah, you could go to Nashville. Yeah, it's a great world. It's a pretty cool opportunity.
Ben, I have a question to ask you because I think thank you for your service, but I think being a special op, a Green Beret, and the life skills that you've carried on, I'm trying to word this, but can you tell us listeners, myself, use the word chaos, and when you are in you have to be calm in a crazy situation as a Green Beret. How did you train your brain to be calm in a crazy situation?
Repetition. Yeah, repetition, consistency. We trained until it was, the big key phrase or the slogan is muscle memory, right? Because you're on repeat. And in those times in combat or in training, what is simulated is you don't have time to think, right? So you assess, you make a decision, and then you act upon that decision. The thing that's the difference between that moment and the moment we all, non-service members are living. Oh, hold on. Oh man, what do I have? No, it lost me. It'll come back to me. Sorry. No, chaos. So there's a time variable, right? In the military, in a chaotic state, is you don't have time to act. The difference between service members and non-service members is we have time to think.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes too much time to think.
Got it.
We all know the paralysis by analysis, right? And that's something that I am really good at, is making a decision with very limited time, because it forces you to act. And now it's a lot difficult because I have that time to think, have that time to think extenuously, right? So much, every single list details. It takes, sometimes it could take hours. It could take days of me still thinking. Well, guess what? There's no action because you're only thinking. So I think that's the difference between the chaotic state and the chaotic state that I'm living now is the time variable, is a time element where you don't have time to think, make a decision, adjust, because we all know that the decision that you make is probably going to be, near the right decision, but not the right decision. So you're gonna have to pivot. You're gonna have to react and eventually get to your goal, your end state. What is troubling now is that time to sit there and think through it. And 3 weeks and I was off to. It was a significant change. So throughout my life, I can really sit there and see periods of my life where I made a decision that impacted not just my life but my family's life, rather quickly.
Yeah.
Am I suggesting to do that now? No. But what I do know is if we sit there and think about it ad nauseum, there's no action. So I think that's the one thing that really is a differentiator. And that's good. I never really thought of it that way. And that's why I love, podcasts is I never really thought about the chaotic state and why I was able to be successful, professionally in my military career. But now it's like, man, this is difficult. Like, what am I doing? Like, what if I do this and this? And like, there's so many different variables, and you can go off on a tangent. And the next thing you know, you don't even know what your decision was because you got so many layers of different thoughts or could be's or should be's. So that's pretty, man, I'm going to think about that in the middle of the night. I'm going to wake up and I'm like, oh man, time. Really? That's pretty cool.
Well, we'll have to have another podcast with you, Ben. I think you're an amazing being. I think I wish you much success on your business adventure. And I love that you're still part of the special operations by helping out with medical supplies. I think that's amazing. Yeah. Sounds like you're very passionate about it. So you're going to be successful, obviously. And I appreciate you taking the time out today to talk to us and to educate us a little bit more on Green Beret and your retirement and the 4 F's and and anything else you want to share with our listeners.
Thanks for listening. I hope you got something. We all are different, but we're all very similar too. But to people out there that may see comeback and like, oh, I don't have a comeback story, right? Well, dig deeper, because every single one of us has a comeback story, and a lot of them need to be heard. And I love what you're doing, and I hope many other individuals get on here, and that's what my goal is to come on here to show, hey, listen, you don't have to be a Green Beret to have a comeback story. You don't have to be have a tragedy or a tragic accident to come back or be diagnosed. Like, yeah, those are great, and I love those, but that's not to the person sitting there saying, man, I don't have one. Yeah, you do. You have
every
one.
day you wake up.
Every single day is an opportunity to come back just a little bit better than what the previous day was, because that day might be, you might take 2 steps backwards some days, or 1 step or whatnot, right? There's hurdles, there's setbacks, but I like the fact that we all have comebacks every single day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben.
All right. Thank you, Tom.